one and only Rampage.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to look at day 2 of the WPT cash game streams I played back in December at the WPT World Championships at the Win. Day 1 of the series we booked approximately a 100k win, but day 2 is a lot different as you can see with the lineup. The stream starts with me having to defend myself. Berkey brought up the fact that Peter seemed quite upset with me. He actually was after this game because he thought I had a lot to do with the lineup, and I actually did not. Day 1 was me meeting Rips and Marcus for the first time, and I felt bad. Nonetheless, they thought I kind of threw them to the wolves, and I definitely felt guilty about that. Honestly, setting lineups for these things is tough, and I do not envy anybody who has to do that all the time. We do have some new players in the game today, Dylan, Marcus, and Rampage. Rampage, of course, is used to Squid, and Marcus and Dylan are both high stakes regs as well. So it's definitely a much tougher lineup than the previous day. Here you see me going at it with Berkey. He claims that it's meaningless if he reaches 5 tokens since we are playing progressive Squid, while I'm trying to explain to Nick that it's definitely not meaningless because if Nick has 4 Squid tokens and Berkey hits 5, Nick does not get paid on any of his 4 tokens, so that's a disaster for him.
Yeah, Matt's like, don't worry, Nick. You know.
You should try to win the next 2 pots so that you're the first to 5.
You want to prevent Berkey from winning, so you get paid.
Yes, I said once I have 5,
okay, but
it's meaningless to him.
Okay, but
once I have 5, that's true.
once he gets 5, it's really bad for you.
Well, it's really meaningless to you, really.
So he can't just be rolling over and not fighting for any more buttons. In this next hand, I have King 5 offsuit from the straddle. Flop comes out 10 for a deuce, 2 diamonds. It goes checked around, all 6 of us. Turn comes a 6 of diamonds and it gets checked around again. Now that 6 of diamonds kind of gives us some properties that we like with our offsuit hand. Our 5 of diamonds gives us a gut shot and a flush draw, but again, it's 6-way. I'm not going to stab at this pot quite yet. I don't know what anybody has, and generally in these spots you want to proceed very cautiously. So the river comes a6, which is an interesting card and definitely gave me ideas. Sure, someone could be slow playing. The pot's only 2400, but you know what? We can have every single combo of that 6 since we were in the straddle. However, if we wanted to bluff, we would definitely have to go for a large size and just hope no one has a flush or a 6. Having that 5 in our hands definitely prevents our opponents from having that 6-5 combo they could have gotten into the pot with electively. But it doesn't quite work since Rampage has top pair and he was not folding that.
Maybe not, according to Berkey.
Whatever, Ethan.
I didn't have a hand that good.
Either calling and leaving or folding. Actually, I was never folding. Calling and leaving or calling and staying.
Calling and leaving. You would have just left.
Club WPT Gold is finally now live for US players. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up for a new account, and after that you can choose between Gold Coin Poker or Sweeps Coin Poker. Both you can redeem for amazing prizes, but it's with Sweeps Coin Poker that you can also redeem for cash. I'm going to be playing a lot in my bathrobe. I love online poker. I hope you'll join me. Go make a new account at clubwptgold.com and use my bonus code XUAN. Thank you, I appreciate you so much, and good luck at the tables. This next hand we have 4 limpers again, and Rips has a very reasonable Queen Jack suited from the big blind and does choose to squeeze. I think we're doing just fine here with our King 8 suited, and Berkey thinks he's doing just fine with King 3 suited. Remember, every squid token matters, so we want to be seeing pots as cheaply as possible. Obviously, when we get a flop like this, we are shooting ourselves in the foot for not having a bigger stack, but as I mentioned before, in the middle of a squid round, if you don't have a token, it's actually an advantage if you have a shorter stack, so you can shove more liberally, risk less to earn more equity from squid. I checked to Rips, who bets just under half pot. Berkey comes along as well with top pair, very reasonable here. And because we really don't have that many chips behind, we are just choosing to fast play this into 2 players. We have 28k and the pot's already 10k. We can shove, we can make it a bit smaller. I think making it a non-all-in size tends to be a little better in situations like this, since it does entice your opponents to jam a little lighter if they feel like they have some fold equity. Making it this size also puts a lot of pressure on Rips and Berkey, since they have many more chips behind than I do, and they're gonna have to play a side pot if Rips just flats here, as he does. They both decide to take the conservative route and just call here, and the pot is already almost 90k.
As we have already seen. I don't think Berkey's folding at this point. There's just so much money in the pot. But I do think he's giving consideration to raising and isolating Rips out. He decides to just call. Very reasonable option. But when Rips just calls the raise and the jam, given the size of the pot, it doesn't isolate Berkey out. I think Berkey puts Rips on exactly the type of hand that he has.
I'm all in on the turn. They both call and I fade a club. Lucky me, I triple up in this hand.
That's a triple up for Juan, by the way.
Next time we're gonna put on Preston speech play on
Berkey has a lot.
That may be the quietest 90k pot I've ever seen.
In this next hand, Nick straddles to 400 and there's no other limper, so we can just make a regular open here with our very pretty King 10 suited from the cutoff. Here you can see that Berkey understands the name of the game and he calls off the 2k with 8-3 offsuit. Nick also comes along with 400 already committed with Queen 9 offsuit. They both check to me, and although we don't technically hit this flop, we definitely have some backdoor potential, and it's perfectly reasonable to put in a small C bet here of 2k into just over 6k. Berkey does hit a pair but has to proceed quite cautiously and chooses to just call. Nick has that gut shot and bink, he hits it right away. We also make a pair, but now we have showdown equity. The plan was probably just to check it down behind if we don't improve on the river.
Now that she has a hand that has a ton of showdown value. Wow, the 8 on the river. This could get wildly expensive for Matt Berkey. He just bets 1,002 to induce. What size does Nick go here?
This is obviously a disastrous card for Berkey as he makes trips. I like his size, and obviously he cannot be folding this river when he gets raised by Nick.
12,000.
Why are your hands shaking? You had the great. Shit, that's a bad turn.
Here we have everybody talking about the $5 million free roll that Club WPT ran. It was such a blast. I think I made it 2 hours maybe. To be fair, I ran up a stack and I got coolered with trips. Here we have Rips in the straddle. Everybody somehow folds around to me in the big blind here and I just happen to have aces. I raise into Rips, he calls here. This flop comes out King Queen 4 with 2 clubs. Now this board has all sorts of things happening and I'm not super thrilled to get into a super bloated pot with my aces. Here you can mix in a check with a bet. Almost any size is probably fine, but I chose to check again on the river since we can take away most of Rip's super strong hands. Once he checks twice, we definitely want to be getting some value. Again, you can either check here a 3rd time for deception, believe it or not, with aces, or you can choose to bet a bigger size as I do. However, Rips does sense that I have him beat and wisely folds his 2nd pair.
Keep getting that 6 deuce through.
That was extremely well navigated by Rips there. If I'm Juan, I feel a little robbed.
I think the golden pass.
Now, this last hand we're going to go over today is something else. It's a heads up pot after Nick opens his cutoff with pocket 6s and we 3-bet him very reasonably from the small blind with ace 9 offsuit. Ace-9 offsuit is just about the worst offsuit ace we are gonna do that with. Flop comes out 10-7-8 with 2 diamonds. This is actually a flop we should be checking a lot of the time as the 3-better out of position. Nick does have a gut shot here and decides to bet small into this pot. Obviously, we're not going to go anywhere. We actually have a kind of deceptive straight draw here. The ace of diamonds in our hand, we can definitely consider raising here a large portion of the time, but we choose to just call and see what develops on the turn. The turn is a 10 of spades, which I think is actually kind of a good card for us, unless Nick has a super strong hand, like a set on the flop or a straight. On this turn, when he checks, I think there's definitely an opportunity for me to win the pot. That 9 does definitely block a lot of these 10x combos, and we still have a lot of outs and bluff potential with our ace of diamonds. The river comes a 10 of clubs, which brings trips on the board, and it gives me all sorts of ideas. Nick is just never checking a 10 on the turn, and we can have all the best full houses after this river, since we could have aces, kings, queens, jacks, that all could have played this way. Mind you, technically we can also have that 10. Just because we check that flop does not mean that we cannot have top pair on this board. I am trying to not give off any tells here because I already know in my head that there's a good chance I'm gonna try and check raise bluff this. So this is definitely a very thin value bet slash bluff situation, and maybe he got me exactly where he wanted me and he just knew I was gonna go for it in this spot.
Has. And this is a healthy bet. Oh wow, and Juan finds the check. This is sick.
As you can see, I do check raise to 30k, which in hindsight was probably a bit too small considering the size of the pot. My raise of 30k means it was 22k for him to call to win a pot of 56k, so he needs to be right approximately 40% of the time. He just has a bluff catcher in this situation, but if he thinks I'm bluffing at least 40% of the time with these kinds of ace high hands, missed flush draws, things like that, then he can profitably make the call. And I definitely applaud him for his analysis here. We actually spoke a bit about the hand after, and as you can see, he's quite sharp and kind of just had my number. I was definitely worried I had some live tells that was giving something off to him, and maybe he's just being courteous and didn't want to tell me that I did indeed have these tells in case we play again in the future. But it definitely eased my anxiety a little bit when he told me that it was really more just about the game flow and he thought I was capable of pulling something like this. So there you have it with this week's hands. Let me know what you think about that last one. I'm still kind of unsure. Would you have gone for it with the check raise? Would you have taken another line? And would you have called in his situation? Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and have an amazing week. I will see you guys next time. Bye.